guys, if you live in Canada and like going to live UFC events, I just want to extend my condolences to you because just continually getting shafted with some of the worst cards known to man. Looking at this card, I just assumed it was at the Apex and then double took seeing, oh no, it's at a venue. It's in Canada. It's it seems to be the case of you guys just getting some of the worst main events, especially. Like, objectively, this is a good fight at flyweight, skill for skill, but is anyone buying a ticket for this fight? Like, it's awesome to go and watch the spectacle of a UFC event live, and no one can take that away, but no one is buying a ticket because they are a massive Amir Albazi fan. Are they? Maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, but come on now, UFC. Give my Canadian fans some love out there. You guys deserve, some great main events. I know Canada, in terms of talent, has been struggling a little bit, obviously, since the departure of the GOAT in GSP. You have some good fighters, though. Ayman Zahabi, he's really promising, impressing me. Mike Malott, two guys that are on this card. Malott, fallen off a little bit on the hype train, but Barrio, there's some entertaining fighters from Canada. I just want them to supply an awesome card for you guys because you deserve it. But let's jump into this one. No further ado, the main event. Amir Albazi looking to take on Brandon Moreno. Now, this fight was rebooked. Moreno, I believe. I don't know who fell out of the first one, to be honest. But that fight fell through due to injury. They've booked it again, main event. Brandon Moreno looked really, he looked rough in his last fight. I thought he had a really dull performance, if I'm being quite honest. Losing a decision to Brandon Royval, a guy who's now, at the top of this division, but he looked pretty cold in that matchup. He didn't look on like usual. The boxing wasn't there. He was just spamming the right overhand. Like, the guy's speed is usually his main weapon and his boxing combinations, but yeah, he just didn't look all there in that fight. Doesn't get an easy bounce back because he gets another young, savage, undefeated prospect who is looking to make a name for himself off Brandon Moreno. Sorry, he's not undefeated. He has one loss, and it should be two because Kai Kara-France was robbed in their fight. That was his last performance, the split decision victory over Kai Kara-France. Now, that happened a long time ago, all the way back in June of last year. So the guy's been on the shelf for a little bit, Amir Albazi, he's shown how well-rounded he is, his ability to mix it all up. I wouldn't say he's specifically dangerous anywhere, but the guy has shown to have some good instincts and a good, complete MMA game. He's shown that he's trained everything since he grew up. Like, the guy didn't start with one martial art. You can tell he's been training mixed martial arts from a very early age. I think the big question in this fight is Brandon Moreno over the hill? The amount of damage he took in those wars with Figgy, how could that not change you? And the guy's been a champion in the division, interim champion in the division. Yeah, what more is there left to achieve? Like, I wonder what's left in the tank for Brandon Moreno. What's left in his spirit, in his fighting spirit? Because what it takes to be at the top of a division for this long is crazy, and not just physically but mentally. So the big question coming in to this fight for me is just, where is Brandon Moreno? Yes, in his skills, because they did seem to degrade a little bit in his last performance, but mentally more than anything, because Albazi, you know what you're getting from him. The guy's really good, talented, on a good streak, and he's one win away from a title shot. A guy who's never been in that position, that is his dream. He's been chasing that his whole life, so that cannot be underspoken. That's the big question. Where these guys are, it's such a crossroads fight, so we'll see. Good matchup. Canada, there's your main event. This fight, I'm actually really looking forward to. Rose Namajunas, Erin Blanchfield. Erin Blanchfield, a girl who was, in my opinion, on top of the world. Going into her last fight against Manon Fiorot, I thought she was going to win that fight and get through. She looked rough in that one. Looked really rough. Over the 5 rounds, she showed how tough she was, but her fight IQ and just, the gaping holes in her game that were presented were pretty glaring. Yes, she is a killer on the ground. Her grappling, jiu-jitsu and wrestling is really, really good. But she struggled to get Fiora down in their fight. Namajunas, she's undersized in this division, that's for sure. She had a good win against Cortez in her last fight. This is a big test, I think, for Namajunas, just in terms of the physicality, because she is better than her skill for skill everywhere. Maybe not on the ground, but Namajunas is crafty on the ground, and I think crafty enough to be able to stay safe in positions against Blanchfield. Namajunas, will she be able to implement that veteran game, that experience, and keep it on the feet in her range? Because if it stays on the feet, she will light up Blanchfield. I really like Rose Namajunas in this matchup, especially, based off what Blanchfield did in her last one out. A loss, your first loss in your career can make or break you. Let's see. She's getting a really tough fight in her comeback from that loss. So it's going to make or break her. Like I said, I can only imagine Namajunas on the feet, clear victory. If she can keep the fight moving on the ground as well, I think she's got a really good chance. But if Blanchfield's able to implement that control and keep Namajunas with her back on the ground, I can see a path to victory for her here as well. So crossroads fight. Interesting. This one is going to last, what's the over or under on 1.5 minutes? If Derek Lewis comes out swanging them like usual, does this Denise guy really have anything for Derek Lewis? Yeah, he looks heavy-handed, had a nice contender series win, but D. Lewis has got this all day. Give me Derek Lewis by knockout in the first round. Derek Lewis, anytime he fights, it is pure entertainment. So tune into that matchup. No wonder they got him up on the main card in a nice position. Derek Lewis, they're expecting him to go in there and have another Derek Lewis moment. Derek Lewis seems like he's in that position now of, fighting these unranked guys and just getting gimmies. But the way he fights, the positions he puts himself into, he can lose any night as well. So this is going to be a heavyweight slugfest, and I'm all here for it. And guys, like I've said, this card is so hollow. We're going down the main card. Kaya Machado versus Brenson Habero. Are you guys excited for that fight? That's all I'll say about that matchup. For the main card, come on. Really? Again, Barrio versus Stoltzis. Two of the most lukewarm fighters that you could have in the UFC. I'm really interested to see Mike Malott get back in the winners column. He's got a tough fight here though. Trevin Giles gets no love, and someone who's fought absolute killers, Prates, Dricus Duplessis, the list goes on and on. Trevin Giles has had a really, really tough strength of schedule. A guy who doesn't really get much love, and I think in this fight, as long as he's able to keep it off the ground, I think he has some real interesting chances against Malott. Someone who just got, finished as well. What does that do to your confidence? You're at home as well. Pressure's on. Oh, Canada. Mike Malott, you got to put on for your people, brother. And here's Trevin Giles lighting you up with that jab. We'll see. It's a really interesting fight. If Trevin Giles can keep this one on the feet, I really like his chances because Mike Malott, yes, he's technical up there, but he's not as slick and as smooth and as comfortable on the feet as Trevin Giles is. So if Trevin Giles can keep this one standing, I love him in this fight. Charles Jourdain is moving down to bantamweight. Really interesting. A guy in Charles Air Jourdain that I love watching. Win, lose or draw, the guy creates chaos in there. Non-stop entertainment, exciting from bell to bell. Why is he going down to bantamweight? He wasn't, a small featherweight, and he's taken a few losses there. He just got KO'd by John Silver. I don't know. Be interesting to see him down at bantamweight. He's going to be cutting a fair amount of weight, I'd assume. And Victor Henry, a guy who puts on a pace as a natural bantamweight, This is an interesting matchup and quite a dangerous one for Jourdain. I'm a bit confused the decision to move down because Jourdain has great pop at featherweight, really nice striking, and I don't feel like he's too undersized there. We'll see though. He could prove me completely wrong and come out at bantamweight and look like a killer. You never know, but people moving down a weight class so late in their career, not late in their career, but he's been in the UFC for 12 fights, 13 fights now, and bantamweight now? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he's felt like he needed to make this change for a long time and is only implementing it now. He knows himself, what's the best for himself. I'm just looking forward to watching him fight because, like I said, Charles Jourdain, I'm a massive fan of and love his style, how creative, flowy he is up there on the feet. If he can do that at bantamweight, bring that into this division, I think he'll have some great success. So really, really looking forward to Charles Jourdain. Jack Shaw, Yusuf Zalal, this is a sleeper fight on the card. Two guys who are massive on, I think the skill-wise, Yusuf Zalal, Jack Shaw, really, really top tier. And Yusuf Zalal is someone who's exited the UFC and come back in on a tear and looked really good. Jack Shaw had a couple tough, performances. This guy who started his career undefeated for so long. I think he needs to get back in the winners column, build some momentum because his last fight was pretty unfortunate what happened with that injury. Them calling the fight over that as well. And I know the guy wanted to fight through. So Jack Shaw, he gets the ability to come back and remind everyone just why he was such a big prospect out of the UK. Because Jack Shaw, if you guys know, he's been quietly building some really, really good wins, and it's just recently that he's found some tough losses, unfortunately. So Jack Shaw, Yusuf Zalal, I think this is the sleeper fight of the whole card. No matter what the card looks like we've talked about, it is really, really hollow, top to bottom, but it's in a live arena, and that always adds energy into the card. It really amplifies the energy. Having that live crowd there playing off the fighters playing off the crowd, as opposed to a couple of hundred rich, billionaires or millionaires in the apex. Like, it's two different worlds. So regardless of the card, I'm excited to watch a UFC event with a crowd again. One that's not the apex. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please let me know your thoughts on the card. I look forward to chatting again soon. If you could like, comment, and subscribe, I would really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much.